Well, thank you for taking the time to listen to this hopefully somewhat brief video about safety. We are clearly living in unique days, and we're not exactly sure even how to live like our normal life, let alone how do we come together as a body and bring everybody safely back inside, which really our desire is to worship together. And so we've been trying a lot of creative ways, obviously live stream for a long time. We've been outside for the last few weeks, and we want to get back inside. And so that's coming sooner than later, but it's coming with a lot of parameters and stipulations. And we wanted to come to you today, so Pastor Dan, myself, and Dr. Dave Bolander. So Dave is an elder for us, but he also is a doctor in the medical community, a professor for the Froedtert Medical College. And so we are blessed to have him serve with us on the elder board, and blessed to have him as a brother in Christ. But certainly for things such as this, this is a great opportunity for us to learn from some of his wisdom. So he's going to give us some practical tips on how do we wear safety equipment to make sure that we're doing it well. But the reason we're doing all of that, specifically on this video for you, is because you are our front lines. So when people come into this building that we call church, when people come into this building, they're going to see you first. And you're going to be the one that sets the tone for safety, to make them feel comfortable, to make them feel like we're neither overboard nor are we too lax, that we are enjoying what we're doing even if it's uncomfortable. And so we're going to put just our faith and trust and our thanks in what you're doing. And so we appreciate your efforts. We appreciate you taking the time, but we're going to be doing a lot of things differently. We're at the worship center, which seats 255 people. We're going to seat roughly 75. That means that we're going to have seats pretty well spaced apart. When you come in the morning, there's going to be every other row will be gone. We'll have chairs spread pretty far apart. You're going to see our capacity reduced by almost 70%. When families come in, we're going to encourage you, if you're an usher, to start pulling some chairs together, but doing it in a way that seats the family, but still seats them separate from other people. We're going to encourage you when you're greeting people to open the door so that they don't have to open the door. The less they need to touch, the better. We're not going to have bulletins. We're not going to have many things to hand out. Pastor Dan's trying to work on some technology to get us through prayer requests and giving and connect cards, and how do we do things as hands-free as possible. Even when we do communion, we're going to do single-serve cups that the ushers will be able to hand out. And how do we hand those out safely? You're going to get a detailed list of some of these specifics, but the point of this training is that we can actually talk about some of these specifics, encourage you, thank you, acknowledge that we know that what you're doing is awkward and uncomfortable, but we want to thank you for doing it because it's critical. A couple of brief points that I want to make is that, again, as I said, you're our front line. And so your disposition, even with a mask on, we're going to be asking you to be wearing masks and gloves. Even with a mask on, people can still see your eyes. They know if you're smiling. They know if you're happy. What you represent is the body of Christ here at Community. And if when people are walking in, they can tell you're annoyed to wear a mask, which we know you're going to be. But if they can tell you're annoyed to be wearing a mask and glove, it immediately impacts the mood of worship. So we're going to be asking you that you come with the heart of Christ even in uncomfortable times. As I said, for times of communion, which I think our first Sunday inside is going to be a communion Sunday, we've got the one-serve cups. We're going to be asking as ushers that you actually take that cup and do your best, and we'll try to even teach the body, but that they would hold their hands out and that you would drop it into their hands so that you're not touching their hand with your gloves, contaminating your gloves, putting back into the container, and then touching somebody else. And so it's little things like that are not going to be natural that we want to make sure that we're careful about. As far as singing is an important part of our worship, and we don't want to give that up. But yet it's also an extremely dangerous part of what we're going to be doing when we come together. So we're going to be offering training for that. So when the worship leaders, Pastor Dan typically on a Sunday morning will lead a welcome, we'll be giving a brief training likely every Sunday on what is good practice for worship and what is not. If you're a bellower like I am, that's not good. That's not, we're gonna have to pull it back a notch. Maybe you're somebody that doesn't normally sing on a Sunday morning. You can do more than that, right? How do we come together safely and also enjoy the time that we have? So I'm going to ask Dave to give us some tips, pointers, tricks. How do we effectively wear our mask? Again, when you have a mask on, and if you wear it wrong, somebody's going to say, well, then what good is that doing? And so it just looks like we're trying to play a part. We're really not. We actually are trying to be safe. We're trying to be as neighborly as we can be. And again, this isn't about whether or not you're comfortable getting sick. You may say, I don't care if I get it. Had somebody tell me I'm ready to go be with Jesus. Yeah, so am I. But I don't know that Dave is, right? So just because I'm comfortable getting sick doesn't mean that I have the right and authority to go make somebody else sick. This is about us making sure that we are being as loving as possible to our neighbor. We're not trying to impede on your freedoms, but we're trying to make sure that we are as loving as possible. And so that's why we're being extra careful and extra cautious as a church. And not because the board cares about me, they do. But not because they care about me getting sick. We care about the body. We care about the greater body. We care about the community at large. We want to make sure that we're being as careful and as cautious as possible. And again, as I said at the beginning, you that are going to be watching this video are the front lines on this. The way that you model, the way that you serve is going to be critical to our body understanding why this is important. So again, I thank you for your time. I thank you for your efforts in doing this. I thank you for serving. And I just thank you for being brothers and sisters in Christ. So, Dave?
All right. So on the news, of course, you see it everywhere. If you've gone to the store, anywhere, the facial coverings, it's now recommended by the Center for Disease Control that if you go outside your house, you should have a facial covering on. That's because this virus is spread through particles that come out of your nose and your mouth and can be spread to other people. That's why we stand or sit 6 feet apart or further, and so that we don't transmit it. So the mask helps, but the mask is really for protecting others against you rather than protecting you against other people, because they're not totally free from being penetrated by the virus particles that might be in the air. So you probably all know how to put one of these things on, but I'll just demonstrate it because I love to wear them so much. And you need to make sure that your nose is covered as well as your face. There's a little, this is the same kind of mask you'll be wearing. There's a little wire in here that allows you to tuck it under there. The thing I don't like is every time I breathe, it fogs up my glasses. You've seen this in the store, okay? Somebody's talking to you like this, okay? Yeah, etc. And then all of a sudden they realize, well, I probably should have my mask on. So they do that, and now they've just basically totally destroyed the mask, because any germs that now got on the mask from somebody else that was out there, they just probably put on themselves when they touched their eyes, bottom of their eyes, or their nose, or their mouth. And they take it off and keep putting it on and take it off. The right way to take it off is to do it that way, and then you could dispose of it. You only wear it once. Or you could, if you have a cloth mask, you could take it home and wash it and then put it back. But for church, we're going to have these that you can have for while you're here working, and then when you're done, we'll dispose of them. So that's the reason. Think of your mask as a gift to others. You're giving them the gift of safety and feeling comfortable that they're here and they're not going to get anything from you.
That's a great point, Dave. Can I ask, would it be a good practice before you put your mask on to Purell or put some hand sanitizer on?
Awesome, yes. Either do that or wash your hands really good, and then maybe put some hand sanitizer on just before you put your mask on, and leave it on. And if you have to take it off for some reason in between the time you started your volunteer stint until afterwards, and take it off and throw it away and get a new one, and wash your hands before you do that. And you probably should wash your hands after you take your mask off, because there's going to be germs on it. Because the one interesting thing about this virus, an unfortunate thing about this virus, is that many people that have the virus can be free of symptoms that the virus usually causes, and they can be walking around and be transmittable even though they aren't sick. And so that's the main reason for the facial coverings. It protects them from you, not you from them. It's your gift to them.
And then so we got masks. From a gloves perspective, those are pretty straightforward, right? I put the fingers where the finger holes are.
Yes, but just remember, anything you touch, that they've calmed down some of the rhetoric about surfaces and how long the virus lasts on surfaces. Their studies have shown that the initial things that they thought, the length of time that the virus actually was alive, if you can say that about something that's not living, is at least transmittable, is much reduced now. So they're not as concerned about that. But yeah, if your gloves touch stuff that other people have touched, or you touch other people, etc., then your gloves are contaminated and you need to take them off and put new ones on.
So then our hope is, again, we're not trying to be militant about this. We're trying to make sure that we're having good hygienic safety practices so that people feel safe and comfortable. Because what we desire that they're coming in to worry about is worship, right? The last thing we want them to be thinking about is the coronavirus and potential infection, which while we're going to have 30% of the worship center full, we're going to have people with masks and gloves. It's absolutely on everybody's mind. But we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to put them at ease and keep everybody as safe as possible.
Yeah, and if you're a greeter, that doesn't give you the license to shake hands with people, because the second person you shake hands with, you give the germs from the first person that you shook hands with. So you can wave, but you can't touch.
Yes. Yes, and that's really hard. I had
Yes.
We did the first outdoor service. I had several people try to shake my hand, and I had to say, I can't shake your hand, right? And it's uncomfortable.
It is.
And it feels like you're rejecting somebody in some way. But we need to get more comfortable with that. And there's going to come a day when we're able to shake lots of hands and give lots of hugs and all the greetings that we desire to give. But the blessing we have right now is being able to be in person, and we don't want anything to jeopardize that.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Dave. Appreciate the insights, and you're going to be our on-call guy if we've got additional questions. So, Pastor Dan?
Yeah, the last thing I want to say is, as leaders, the difference between someone who just attends and someone like you who leads is ownership. This is our family. This is our house. We are the hosts. And so when someone comes in during this season, we want to roll out the red carpet and say, we love you so much that we are going the extra mile. Think about a nice dinner that you would host and going the extra mile for someone. Yes, for many of us, this might not be something we might want to do on our own in public or whatever it is, but here in our house as we're hosting, I want to encourage you to remember that this is our opportunity to love one another. And while some may think it's a bit much, others will come up to us and say, thank you so much. And so it's for that we want to take the extra mile, which means things are going to look different for a period of time. We don't know how long, but we'll endure. And so that means ministries will change. We won't have our regular coffee or fellowship time. In fact, we are going to encourage you to not linger and stay around too long in the building, which I know is difficult. We all, even as introverts, we still love seeing one another and developing those relationships further. And yet, during this season, we do want to say, okay, we realize more people congregating together for longer just increases risk. And so in that sense, we wanted to have the opportunity to worship together and yet also be able to then head out safely. And so things are going to be different. We are going to work through different technologies and different things to continue to try to have those things that are valuable to us. The practices of worship through song and word and through giving and yes, fellowship. I truly believe that we worship through that way. And so we're going to continue to encourage smaller groups. We are going to encourage Zoom attendance, online watching for the live stream throughout this season. And the emphasis here is to love one another. And one of the best ways we can do that is just by saying, I'm going to go over the top to do what I normally wouldn't do because I want to love like Christ and I want to love sacrificially. So when you show up on a Sunday morning. I want to encourage you to have thought through several of the things depending on your role. Should a hand get extended to you and everything in your gut instinct is to say, not only is it reactionary, but I know it's a form of honor and greeting, and it's a gesture of touching and connection. I want to say prepare. Have a line prepared in your head to say, we want to be sure not to do these things, and so may I give you a quick salute? Can I give you an ankle, whatever it is that you would like to do that feels comfortable. But I'd like you to have thought it through in advance so that you don't find yourself in that position where you're like, I don't know what to do, because that will just make someone else feel loved. To encourage you to take every opportunity you have to use the hand sanitizer and to wash your hands in those down moments. And for those people to whom this is highly important, they will notice those things and they will say thank you. And so we want to say thank you so much for your partnership, for your leadership, for your ownership in this church family, this family that we get to call family because of Jesus Christ. And remember, Jesus showed us the way of love and showed us the way of leadership, and it was by washing feet and serving. And so I want to encourage you to do the same.